In the shadowed nave of St. Mary's Cathedral, nestled in the misty heart of 1930s London, the evening vespers had just concluded. The air hung heavy with the scent of incense and polished oak, as the choir's ethereal voices faded into silence. Young Emily Thorne, the soprano whose notes had soared like angels' wings, lingered by the altar, her white robe pooling at her feet. She bent to retrieve a fallen hymnal, her ear catching a whispered exchange in the vestry, words of betrayal, greed, and a hidden sin that could topple empires. But before she could flee, a gloved hand emerged from the gloom, clutching a silver crucifix. A muffled cry, a thud, and Emily lay still, her knowledge silenced forever. Who had she overheard? And why did death stalk the house of God? The mystery beckoned, drawing the little Belgian detective with his impeccable mustache into its web. Chapter 1. The Summons to St. Mary's. The fog of 1930s London clung to the cobblestones like a conspirator's cloak, muffling the clatter of hooves and the hum of motor cars as Hercule Poirot alighted from a taxicab outside St. Mary's Cathedral. The spires of the ancient edifice pierced the mist, their Gothic arches looming as if guarding secrets older than the city itself. Beside him, Captain Arthur Hastings adjusted his hat, his face etched with unease, his breath visible in the chill autumn air. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice crisp with a French lilt, "you look as though you expect a phantom to leap from the shadows. Yet it is a crime of flesh and blood we pursue, n'est-ce pas?" His green eyes twinkled beneath bushy brows, and he smoothed his impeccable mustache, a ritual as precise as his deductive method. Hastings managed a weak smile. "It's this blasted fog, Poirot. Makes everything feel sinister." Inspector Japp's call was urgent. A young choir girl, Emily Thorne, found dead in the vestry last night. Strangled, they say, and the place locked from within. It's uncanny. Poirot's gaze sharpened, his small frame straightening as if the weight of a mystery invigorated him. "Uncanny, Hastings. No.
Puzzle and no mistake. Victim's name was Emily Thorne, age 22, soprano in the choir. Voice like an angel, they say. Found strangled with her own rosary beads, right there." He pointed to a chalk outline on the vestry floor where a small table held a single candle, its wax hardened in irregular drips. Poirot knelt, his gloved fingers hovering over the outline as if reading the air itself. "Most curious," he murmured. "These scratches on the floor, faint but deliberate. And this wax, a trace of it here, near the body. Not from this candle, I think." He rose, his gaze darting to the heavy oak door, its lock gleaming with recent polish. "You say the room was locked, Inspector? And the key?" "With the vicar, Reverend Elias Blackwood," Japp replied. "Only one key kept in his office. No sign of forced entry. Windows barred, too high to reach without a ladder. It's as if the killer vanished into thin air." Poirot's lips twitched in a faint smile. "Vanished? No, Inspector. The criminal is never so clever as to defy the order and method of Hercule Poirot. Tell me of this Mademoiselle Thorne." Japp flipped open his notebook. "Modest family, lived in Lambeth. Joined the choir 2 years ago. Quickly became the star soprano. No enemies by all accounts, though she was inquisitive. Liked to poke her nose where it didn't belong, according to the verger. Last seen alive after vespers, lingering to tidy the hymnals." Hastings frowned. "Inquisitive? That could be dangerous in a place like this. Churches have their secrets, don't they, Poirot?" "Indeed, Hastings. Secrets are the currency of such places, and knowledge is a perilous coin." Poirot turned to Japp. "And the suspects? Who had the opportunity to commit this crime?" Japp ticked them off on his fingers. "First, Reverend Elias Blackwood. Stern sort, all fire and brimstone. But the church is in financial trouble, debts piling up. Some say he's been dipping into the restoration fund.
Emily might have known something. Then there's Lydia Hawthorne, another soprano, jealous as sin of Emily's solos. Flock. Emily was a pure soul, her voice a gift from God. To think she met such an end. Here, in his house. He trailed off, his eyes fixed on a crucifix above the desk. Poirot leaned forward, his tone gentle but probing. Monsieur, you say she was pure, yet perhaps she saw something impure? A secret, perhaps, that threatened someone standing? Blackwood's cup rattled in its saucer. She came to me in confession recently. Said she overheard something troubling, words of deceit, though she wouldn't name names. I urged her to trust in God, but she seemed distracted. Distracted, Poirot repeated, his fingers steepled. And you, Reverend, where were you when Mademoiselle Thorne met her fate? At Vespers, leading the service. The entire congregation can attest to it. Blackwood's voice was firm, but his eyes flickered to the floor. As they left the office, Hastings whispered, He's hiding something, Poirot. Did you see his hands? Nervous as a cat. Oui, Hastings. The hands betray what the tongue conceals. But let us explore further. They returned to the vestry, where Poirot examined the lock with a magnifying glass. No scratches, no tampering. The key is indeed singular. Yet, he paused, sniffing the air. A faint scent, lavender perhaps? Not from the incense. Curious. Outside, the fog had thickened, cloaking the cathedral grounds in an eerie hush. They interviewed Lydia Hawthorne in the choir loft, a narrow space where hymnals were strewn like fallen leaves. Lydia was a sharp-featured woman in her 30s, her auburn hair pinned tightly, her eyes darting like a cornered animal's. Emily was talented. I'll give her that, Lydia said, her voice clipped. But she was ambitious, always stealing the solos. Last Sunday she took mine, again. I was practicing here when it happened, alone. No alibi. But why would I kill her? Poirot's smile was disarming. Mademoiselle, jealousy is a shadow that darkens the heart. Did Emily share any confidences with you? Perhaps about the church's finances? Lydia hesitated, her fingers twitched. Of course, though minor discrepancies have surfaced, clerical errors, nothing more. As they left, Poirot stooped to retrieve a cufflink near the vestry door, engraved with R.V. A clue, Hastings, or a distraction? The little grey cells must ponder. Their final stop was the organ loft, where Marcus Hale sat at the grand instrument, his fingers coaxing a mournful fugue from the pipes. He was young, with haunted eyes and disheveled hair, his hands calloused from manual labor. Monsieur Hale, Poirot began, you loved Mademoiselle Thorne, yet she rejected you. A wound to the heart can drive a man to desperate acts. Hale's fingers faltered, the music dying. I loved her, yes, but she said I was too possessive. I was repairing the bellows that night, alone. I didn't kill her. Poirot examined the organ bench, spotting a faint powder residue. This, talcum, or something more sinister? Just maintenance dust, Hale muttered, his face paling. As they descended, a distant organ note wailed, unplayed, sending a shiver through Hastings. Good Lord, Poirot! What was that? A warning, perhaps, Poirot mused, his eyes narrowing. Or a ghost of our mystery, calling us deeper. They stepped into the fog, the cathedral's silhouette fading behind them. Poirot paused, his mind racing. The scratches, the wax, the lavender scent, the cufflink, fragments of a puzzle, each a whisper of truth. Emily Thorne had known too much, and her knowledge had sealed her fate. But whose hand had wielded the rosary, and why? As they reached their lodgings, a note slipped under Poirot's door, scrawled in haste. Emily knew about the embezzlement. Beware the benefactor. Poirot's mustache twitched. "The plot thickens, Hastings. Tomorrow we unravel more threads. But tonight the fog hides the killer, and we must be vigilant." The cathedral bells tolled midnight, their somber notes echoing through the mist, as if mourning the secrets yet to be revealed. Chapter 2. The fog clung to St. Mary's Cathedral, adjusted his pince-nez, his green eyes scanning the space with the precision of a jeweler appraising a flawed gem. Hastings, clutching his hat against a sudden draft, shivered. "It's eerie up here, Poirot. You can almost feel Emily Thorne's presence or her absence. Do you think the killer was here, watching her?" Poirot's lips curved in a faint, enigmatic smile. "Perhaps, Hastings. Or perhaps the loft itself holds a secret, a whisper of the truth." He knelt, his gloved fingers brushing a crumpled sheet of music titled "Abide with Me." "Regardez ceci. This hymn, it is not merely discarded, it is crushed as if in anger. And here," he pointed to a faint smudge of crimson on the edge. "Lipstick, I believe. Not the shade of Mademoiselle Thorne, whose lips favored a softer rose. Most curious." They were interrupted by the sound of footsteps, sharp and deliberate, ascending the stairs. Lydia Hawthorne appeared, her auburn hair pinned tightly beneath a modest hat, her sharp features taut with nervous energy. She was in her 30s, with eyes that darted like a cornered doe's, betraying a mix of defiance and fear. Her choir robe hung loosely, as if she had donned it in haste. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," she said, her voice clipped. "Inspector Japp said you wished to speak with me. I've nothing to hide, though I'm sure you've heard the gossip." Poirot's smile was disarming, his tone velvet smooth. "Mademoiselle Hawthorne, gossip is but the shadow of truth, and I seek the light. You were a rival to Emily Thorne, n'est-ce pas? Her solos, they eclipsed your own. Tell me, how did this sit with your heart?" Lydia's fingers twisted a lace handkerchief, her knuckles whitening. Emily was talented, I'll grant her that. Her voice could make angels weep. But she was ambitious, too ambitious. Last Sunday she took my solo, the one I'd practiced for weeks. The congregation applauded her, not me. I was upset, yes, but murder? That's absurd. And where were you, mademoiselle, when poor Emily met her fate? Poirot's eyes bored into hers, unyielding yet polite. "Here in the loft," Lydia replied, illuminating. As Lydia descended, her footsteps echoing like a fading heartbeat, Hastings leaned close. "She's nervous, Poirot. That hesitation. Do you think she's lying?" "Perhaps, Hastings. But the lie is often a shield for a deeper truth. Let us see what Monsieur Voss reveals." They found Sir Reginald Voss in the grand hall below, where he stood beneath a portrait of a stern-faced bishop, his gold pocket watch gleaming against his tailored waistcoat. He was a portly man in his 60s, with a florid complexion and a joviality that seemed rehearsed, like an actor playing a part he no longer believed in. His handshake was firm but damp, and his eyes avoided Poirot's scrutiny. "Dreadful business, Mr. Poirot," Voss boomed, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "Emily was like a daughter to me, a radiant soul. I was in my study across the street, reviewing accounts, when this tragedy occurred. My heart breaks for the church." Poirot's gaze lingered on Voss's manicured nails, pristine as polished ivory. "Monsieur Voss, your generosity to St. Mary's is well known. Yet Mademoiselle Thorne spoke of discrepancies in the Restoration Fund. Clerical errors, or something more deliberate?" Voss's face reddened, his jovial mask slipping. "Preposterous! I've donated thousands to keep this cathedral standing. Yes, there have been minor discrepancies, bookkeeping errors, nothing more. Emily was mistaken if she thought otherwise. And your whereabouts, monsieur? Can they be verified?" Poirot's tone was mild, but his eyes were sharp as a blade. "My solicitor, Mr. Grayson, was with me until 11, Voss replied, producing a telegram from his pocket. He sent this to confirm our meeting. I was nowhere near the vestry. Poirot examined the telegram, his fingers lingering on the crisp paper. Most convenient, this alibi. Merci, Monsieur Voss. As they left the hall, Poirot paused by the vestry door, stooping to retrieve the cufflink they had found earlier, engraved with R.V. He held it to the light, his expression unreadable. A clue, Hastings? Or a red herring? The initials suggest Voss, yet it is too obvious.
Dominated by the great pipe organ, its polished pipes glinting like sentinels in the dim light. Marcus Hale sat at the bench, his fingers coaxing a melancholic fugue from the keys, the notes resonating with a sorrow that seemed to mourn Emily's loss. He was young, no older than 30, with disheveled hair and eyes shadowed by grief or guilt. Monsieur Hale, Poirot began, his voice cutting through the music like a scalpel. You were once betrothed to Mademoiselle Thorne, yet she ended the engagement. A wound to the heart can fester, can it not? Hale's fingers faltered, the music dying abruptly. I loved Emily, he said, his voice raw. She broke it off because she said I was too possessive. I was repairing the bellows that night, alone in the organ chamber. I didn't kill her, Mr. Poirot. Poirot examined the organ bench, spotting a faint residue of white powder. This? Talcum, perhaps? Or something more sinister? Just dust from the bellows. Hale muttered, his face paling. The organ's old, needs constant maintenance. Poirot's eyes narrowed. And did Emily share any confidences with you, perhaps about secrets she uncovered? Hale hesitated, his hands clenching. She said she heard something in the vestry, a heated argument between Voss and Blackwood. She wouldn't tell me more, but she was scared. As they descended, a sudden unplayed organ note wailed through the cathedral, a discordant cry that sent Hastings spinning. Good Lord, Poirot, what was that? A mechanical fault, perhaps? Poirot said, though his eyes gleamed with suspicion. Or a warning from our killer, who watches from the shadows. Back in the nave, Poirot paused by a side altar, where a single candle flickered, its wax pooling unevenly. He sniffed the air, detecting the lavender scent again, stronger now. This candle, it is not the source, yet the scent persists. A perfume, a soap, or something left deliberately? Hastings shivered. It's as if the cathedral itself is conspiring against us. That note you found last night, beware the benefactor. Must be vigilant. The cathedral bells tolled 1 o'clock, their mournful peal echoing through the shrouded streets, as if heralding the secrets yet to be uncovered. The Organist's Lament. The grand organ of St. Mary's Cathedral loomed in the organ loft like a brooding giant, its polished pipes catching the dim light that filtered through the cathedral's high windows. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and the faint, lingering trace of lavender that Hercule Poirot had noted earlier, a scent that seemed to weave through the mystery like a ghostly thread. The morning fog outside had begun to lift, but within the cathedral, a different kind of mist hung heavy, a mist of secrets and suspicion. Poirot and Captain Arthur Hastings stood before Marcus Hale, the organist, whose fingers lingered on the keys, coaxing a melancholic fugue that seemed to mourn the loss of Emily Thorne. Monsieur Hale, Poirot began, his voice slicing through the mournful notes with surgical precision. You were once betrothed to Mademoiselle Thorne, n'est-ce pas? A love lost is a wound that festers, and such wounds can drive a man to desperate acts. His green eyes, sharp beneath bushy brows, studied Hale's face for any flicker of guilt. Hale's hands faltered, the music dying in a discordant wail that echoed through the loft. He was a young man, no more than 30, with disheveled dark hair and eyes shadowed by grief, or perhaps something darker. His calloused hands, rough from manual labor, rested uneasily on the organ bench. "I loved Emily," he said, his voice raw and low. "She broke off our engagement 6 months ago, said I was too possessive. It hurt, yes, but I'd never harm her. I was in the organ chamber repairing the bellows when she was killed. Alone, I'm afraid. No one to vouch for me." Poirot's lips twitched in a faint smile, his pince-nez glinting as he leaned closer. "Alone, you say? A convenient solitude for a crime or an unfortunate truth? Tell me, what did you repair precisely?" Hale gestured toward the organ's underbelly, a maze of pipes and leather bellows accessible through a small hatch. The bellows were sticking.
Days before it happened. Said she overheard an argument in the vestry. Reverend Blackwood and Sir Reginald Voss. Something about money missing from the restoration fund. She didn't give details, but she was shaken. I told her to stay out of it, but Emily, she was stubborn. Hastings, standing by the loft's railing, frowned. "Money missing? That's motive enough for murder, Poirot. Blackwood's got debts, and Voss has the means to cover them up. Maybe Emily knew too much." "Patience, Hastings," Poirot murmured, his fingers steepled. "The little grey cells require order, not haste. Let us see what the good Reverend reveals." They descended to the rectory, a cramped room lined with theological tomes and a single window overlooking the fog-shrouded graveyard. Reverend Elias Blackwood sat at his desk, his gaunt frame hunched over a ledger, his hands trembling as he poured tea from a chipped porcelain pot. The crucifix above his desk seemed to loom larger in the dim light, its shadow falling across his lined face. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," Blackwood said, his voice low and strained. "This tragedy weighs heavily on my soul. Emily was a gift to our choir, her voice a beacon of grace. To think she met such an end in God's house." He trailed off, his eyes fixed on the tea as if seeking absolution in its depths. Poirot's tone was gentle but probing. "Monsieur, you speak of grace, yet Emily spoke of deceit. She confessed to you, did she not? What secrets did she share?" Blackwood's cup rattled in its saucer, a faint clink betraying his nerves. "She came to me in confession, yes, 3 days ago. She spoke of a sin she witnessed. Adultery, perhaps, or something darker. She wouldn't name names, only said it involved someone of standing in the church. I urged her to trust in God's judgment, but she was agitated." "Agitated," Poirot repeated, his eyes narrowing. "And you, Reverend, where were you when Mademoiselle Thorne was strangled?" Blackwood straightened, his voice firm but his hands unsteady. "Leading vespers, as always. The congregation can confirm it. I was in the chancel until 9. That perhaps from a private source." Hastings paced, his mind racing. "The lavender again, Poirot. It's everywhere. Lydia's perfume, maybe. Or something left to throw us off." "Possibly," Poirot mused, his fingers brushing the rosary beads left at the scene, their ebony surface gleaming dully. "These beads, twisted tightly, requiring strength. A man's hand, perhaps, or a woman driven by desperation." They ventured to the crypt, a cold, stone-walled chamber beneath the cathedral, where ancient tombs bore the names of forgotten clergy. The air was damp, the silence oppressive, broken only by the drip of water from unseen cracks. Poirot's torch swept the walls, revealing a hidden alcove behind a cracked effigy. Inside, a bundle of papers, ledgers, marked with hurried annotations. "Look at this, Poirot," Hastings exclaimed, unfolding a page. "Church funds, siphoned to an offshore account. Initials here, R.V. Voss?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Or a clever forgery. The ink is fresh, Hastings, too recent for old records. A red herring, perhaps, to point us toward the benefactor." They returned to the nave, where the congregation was gathering for a memorial service.
Sir Reginald Voss stood at the pulpit, delivering a eulogy with practiced sorrow, his gold watch catching the light. "Emily Thorne was a light in our darkness," he intoned, though his eyes avoided Poirot's gaze. After the service, Poirot confronted Voss privately. "Monsieur, these ledgers suggest theft. You oversee the funds. Care to explain?" Voss blustered, his face reddening. "Nonsense! I've given thousands to this church. Those ledgers are fake. Someone's trying to ruin me." "And your alibi, monsieur? The telegram from your solicitor? May I see it again?" Poirot's tone was polite, but his eyes were unrelenting. Voss produced the telegram, its edges slightly crumpled. "Grayson will confirm I was with him until 11. Poirot nodded, tucking the telegram away. "We shall verify, monsieur." As they left, Hastings spotted a glint in the vestry's corner, a single ebony bead, the ultimate price. But whose hand had tightened the rosary? As night fell, a shadow moved in the cathedral's graveyard, a figure cloaked in darkness. Poirot, watching from his window, murmured, "The killer grows restless, Hastings. Tomorrow we tighten the net, but tonight we must guard against the unseen." The organ's ghostly note sounded again, unplayed, a haunting reminder that the cathedral held its secrets close, and the truth was still shrouded in mist. Chapter 4. Shadows of the Past. The vestry of St. Mary's Cathedral was a silent witness to the crime, its stone walls absorbing the echoes of Emily Thorne's final moments. Hercule Poirot stood at the center of the chalk outline, his small frame dwarfed by the looming shadows of the Gothic arches. The air was heavy with the scent of lavender and melted wax, a combination that clung to the room like a persistent ghost. The fog outside had thinned, allowing slivers of late-morning light to pierce the stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the flagstones. Captain Arthur Hastings stood by the door, his hat in hand, his face etched with unease as he watched Poirot's meticulous examination. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice a soft murmur in the stillness. "The vestry is the heart of our mystery. The door was locked, the key with Reverend Blackwood, yet Emily entered freely. This suggests an inside job, n'est-ce pas?" His green eyes gleamed beneath his pince-nez, and he stroked his impeccable mustache, a ritual that signaled the stirring of his little gray cells. Hastings nodded, his gaze flickering to the heavy oak door. "It's baffling, Poirot. No forced entry, no second key. How did the killer get in or out? And that lavender scent, it's stronger here. Could it be a clue?" "Perhaps, Hastings," Poirot replied, kneeling to inspect the scratches on the floor he had noted earlier. "These marks, shallow but precise. A cane, a tool, or perhaps something dragged to conceal evidence? And the wax." He lifted a small flake with a gloved finger, sniffing it delicately. "Not from the altar candles. A softer blend, perhaps." Swept the walls, its beam catching on a cracked effigy of a medieval bishop. Behind it, a hidden compartment revealed a bundle of ledgers, their pages marked with hurried annotations. Church funds diverted to an offshore account, initialed RV. "Good heavens, Poirot!" Hastings exclaimed, unfolding a page. "This is embezzlement, plain as day. Voss's initials. Could he be stealing from the church?" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Or a clever plant. The ink is fresh, Hastings, too recent for old records. Someone wishes us to suspect Voss. A red herring, perhaps. But we shall see." They returned to the nave, where the congregation had dispersed after the memorial service. Sir Reginald Voss lingered near the pulpit, his florid face flushed with exertion or nerves. His gold pocket watch gleamed as he adjusted his cufflinks, one of which Poirot noted with interest, engraved with RV, matching the one found near the vestry. "Monsieur Voss," Poirot began, his tone polite but unyielding,
These ledgers suggest theft from the restoration fund you oversee. Care to explain? Voss's jovial mask slipped, his voice rising. Preposterous! I've poured thousands into this cathedral. Those ledgers are forgeries. Someone's trying to ruin me. I was in my study across the street, as I told you, with my solicitor until 11. Here's the telegram to prove it. He thrust the paper at Poirot, its edges slightly crumpled. Poirot examined it, his fingers lingering on the text. Most convenient, this alibi. We shall verify with Monsieur Grayson. But tell me, did Emily confront you about these discrepancies? Voss's eyes darted away. She asked questions, yes. Impertinent girl. But I dismissed her concerns as nonsense. As they left Voss, Poirot murmured to Hastings, his alibi is too perfect, Hastings. And the cufflink, too obvious a clue. The killer plays a game with us. Their next stop was the choir loft, where Lydia Hawthorne was rearranging hymnals with a nervous energy. Her sharp features were taut, her auburn hair escaping its pins. Mr. Poirot, she said, her voice.
Possibly, mon ami, Poirot replied. But the lie is often a shield for a greater truth. Let us see what Monsieur Hale reveals. They found Marcus Hale in the organ loft, his fingers resting on the keys, though no music played. His face was gaunt, his eyes haunted by grief or guilt. Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, he said, his voice low. I have nothing more to say. I loved Emily, and she's gone. Why torment me? Monsieur Hale, Poirot said, his tone gentle but probing. Love can turn to poison when spurned. Emily's diary mentions a meeting in the crypt. Did she share this with you? Hale's hands clenched. She said she was meeting someone, wouldn't say who. She was scared, said it was about money and secrets. I begged her to stay away, but she wouldn't listen. Poirot examined the organ bench again, noting the white powder. This dust, talcum, you said, yet it has a faint chemical tang. Curious. Just maintenance dust, Hale muttered, his eyes avoiding Poirot's gaze. As they left the loft, a sudden gust rattled the windows, and a single hymn sheet fluttered to the floor. Poirot picked it up, noting a faint smudge of crimson lipstick, matching the one from the choir loft. The same shade, he murmured. Lydia's, perhaps? Or another deception? Back in the vestry, Poirot re-examined the rosary beads, their ebony surface marred by a single broken bead. This bead, he said, holding it to the light, snapped under force. The killer was strong or desperate, and the lavender scent stronger here. A perfume, a soap, or a deliberate misdirection? Hastings paced, his mind racing. Poirot, it's like a maze. The ledgers, the necklace, the lipstick, the bead, how do they connect? And that note about the benefactor. Voss is looking guiltier by the minute. Patience, Hastings, Poirot said, his fingers steepled. The truth is a tapestry, and we have but a few threads. We must weave carefully. As evening fell, the cathedral grew darker, its shadows lengthening like accusing fingers. Watching us. Oui, mon ami, Poirot said, his voice calm but resolute. The killer weaves a dangerous game, but Hercule Poirot is no pawn. We shall return tomorrow with fresh eyes. They escorted Hale to the rectory, where a doctor was summoned. As they stepped into the night, rain began to fall, lashing the cathedral spires. Poirot paused, his gaze fixed on the darkened windows. The shadows of the past haunt this place, Hastings. Emily knew too much, and someone seeks to silence all who follow her path. A third anonymous note awaited at their lodgings, scrawled in a trembling hand. The crypt holds more than ledgers. Look deeper. Poirot's mustache twitched. The web tightens, Hastings. But whose hand spins it?
The cathedral bells tolled 6 o'clock, their mournful peal swallowed by the rain, as the mystery deepened, and the killer's shadow loomed ever closer. Chapter 5. Confessions and Deceptions. The morning light filtered through the stained-glass windows of St. Mary's Cathedral, casting a mosaic of crimson and sapphire across the nave's flagstones. The air was crisp, tinged with the persistent scent of lavender and the faint musk of old stone, as Hercule Poirot gathered the suspects in the grand hall adjacent to the cathedral. The space was cavernous, its high ceiling adorned with frescoes of solemn angels, their painted eyes seeming to judge the assembled company. Reverend Elias Blackwood, Lydia Hawthorne, Sir Reginald Voss, and Marcus Hale stood in a tense semicircle, their faces a gallery of unease, defiance, and guarded secrets. Captain Arthur Hastings stood at Poirot's side, his notebook open, his brow furrowed with anticipation. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice resonant yet measured, "we stand in the shadow of a crime most heinous. Emily Thorne, a voice of angelic purity, was silenced by a hand driven by fear, greed, or vengeance. The little gray cells have worked tirelessly, and the truth begins to emerge, like dawn through the fog." His green eyes, sharp beneath his pince-nez, swept over the group, noting every twitch.
Meddling where she didn't belong. She accused me of stealing a necklace, but I found it in her locker after her death. She was no saint, Mr. Poirot. She was manipulative, using secrets to get her way. Poirot's gaze turned to her, unyielding, yet polite. "Mademoiselle, you admit to a quarrel, and your alibi, practicing in the choir loft, is unsupported. Did Emily know something more personal about you? Perhaps an affair?" Lydia's face flushed, her eyes darting to Marcus Hale. She knew about me and Marcus. We've been discreet. But Emily threatened to tell the congregation. She said it would ruin me. Hale, his temple bandaged from the previous night's attack, nodded slowly, his voice low. "It's true. Emily found out about us months ago. She was angry, said it was a betrayal of the choir's sanctity, but I swear I didn't kill her. I was in the organ chamber when it happened." Sir Reginald Voss, his gold pocket watch glinting, laughed bitterly. "And what of me? Emily pestered me about the restoration fund, claimed there were discrepancies. I told her they were clerical errors, but she demanded a share to keep quiet. Blackmail, plain and simple." Poirot's fingers steepled, his expression unreadable. "Blackmail, monsieur. A motive most compelling. Yet your alibi, the telegram from your solicitor, is curiously precise, and the cufflink found near the vestry, marked R.V. Yours, perhaps?" Voss's face reddened. "I lost that cufflink weeks ago. Someone planted it to frame me. I was in my study, as I said, with Grayson until 11. Hastings whispered to Poirot, "They're all pointing fingers, Poirot. But the rosary beads, twisted so tightly, it takes strength. Voss or Hale, perhaps?" "Patience, Hastings," Poirot murmured. "The truth is a tapestry, and we must untangle each thread with care." He paced the hall, his patent leather shoes clicking on the stone floor. "Let us reconstruct. Emily overheard a conversation, perhaps between Monsieur Voss and Reverend Blackwood, about embezzled funds. She also discovered Mademoiselle Hawthorne's affair with congregation." Poirot nodded, his eyes gleaming. "Indeed, monsieur, your alibi is strong. But the glove, too obvious a clue. A frame, perhaps, to divert suspicion." Lydia's voice rose, trembling. "If you're looking for a frame, look at Voss. He's got the money, the motive. Emily was bleeding him dry." Voss snarled, his joviality gone. "Lies. I gave to the church, not took from it. You're the one with no alibi, Lydia." Hale interjected, his voice desperate. "I told you, I was in the organ chamber."
Someone hit me last night to keep me quiet. Maybe the same person who killed Emily." Poirot raised a hand, silencing the cacophony. "Enough." The little grey cells see through the chaos. The wax trace, the scratches, the glove, the bead, all point to a killer who planned carefully yet acted in haste. But there is more, a hidden player in this drama. As he spoke, a creak echoed from the hall's far end, where a heavy velvet curtain concealed a side passage. The group froze, eyes wide, as a figure stepped into the light, a man in his late 20s, dishevelled, with a gaunt face and wild eyes. He clutched a small revolver, its barrel trembling in his hand. "Stop meddling, detective," he shouted, his voice hoarse. "Emily knew too much, and so do you." Hastings drew his own revolver, but Poirot raised a hand, his voice calm. "Monsieur, you are Thomas Thorne, Emily's brother, presumed dead in the war. Why do you hide in the shadows of God's house?" The man's shoulders slumped, the gun wavering. I faked my death. Insurance money to save our family. Emily found out, confronted me in the crypt. She was going to expose me." Poirot stepped closer, his eyes locked on Thomas. "And so you killed her?" "No," Thomas cried, tears streaming down his face. "I was in the crypt that night, but I didn't kill her. I heard her scream, but I was too late." Poirot's agility belied his age as he disarmed Thomas with a swift motion, passing the gun to Hastings. "Your hands, monsieur, calloused, but no trace of wax. You are not the killer."
Voice low. "The web is tangled, but the little grey cells see a pattern. The lavender scent, perhaps a woman's perfume or a man's cologne. And the glove, planted. But by whom?" As they left the hall, rain began to lash the cathedral's windows, a storm brewing outside. Poirot paused, his gaze fixed on the flickering candles. "The killer grows desperate, Hastings. Thomas's appearance was no accident. Someone lured him out to confuse us." Back at their lodgings, a fourth note awaited, scrawled in a different hand. "The organ holds the final clue." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The game accelerates, Hastings. Tomorrow we return to the loft, but tonight we must guard against the unseen hand that seeks to silence us." The cathedral bells tolled 7 o'clock, their mournful peal drowned by the storm, as the shadows of St. Mary's deepened, and the killer's identity remained just beyond reach. Chapter 6. The Crypt's Secret. The grand hall of St. Mary's Cathedral echoed with the fading reverberations of Thomas Thorne's confession, his words hanging in the air like the lingering notes of a requiem. Hercule Poirot stood motionless, his green eyes gleaming beneath his pince-nez as he absorbed the revelation of Emily's brother, presumed dead, but alive and entangled in the web of deceit that had claimed her life. The storm outside raged, rain lashing the stained-glass windows, casting fractured patterns of crimson and sapphire across the stone floor. Captain Arthur Hastings, revolver still in hand, watched the dishevelled Thomas with a mix of pity and suspicion, while Inspector Japp secured the man's wrists with handcuffs. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade, "the crypt has spoken. But its secrets are not yet fully unveiled. Monsieur Thorne, you say Emily discovered your fraud, a faked death for insurance money. Yet you claim you did not kill her. Tell me, what else did she know?" Thomas, his gaunt face streaked with tears, slumped against the pew. "She heard things, arguments in the vestry. Voss and Blackwood shout vestry from a candle not of the altar. You are not our strangler, but you are a thread in this tapestry." As Japp led Thomas away, Poirot turned to Hastings, his expression grave. "The crypt, Hastings.
It holds more than ledgers and ghosts. Let us return there, for the note spoke of deeper secrets. They descended the narrow stone staircase to the undercroft, the air growing colder and heavier with each step. The crypt was a labyrinth of ancient tombs, their inscriptions worn by time, the silence broken only by the drip of water from unseen cracks. Poirot's torch swept the walls, its beam catching on the hidden alcove they had discovered earlier. The ledgers were still there, their pages marked with fresh ink, initialed R.V. Sir Reginald Voss. Hastings examined the papers, his brow furrowed. These confirm embezzlement, Poirot. Thousands diverted to an offshore account. Voss's initials are everywhere. But you said the ink's too fresh. A plant? Oui, Hastings, Poirot replied, his voice low. A clever distraction, but not clever enough. The killer wishes us to focus on Voss. Yet the wax trace, the scratches, the lavender scent, they point elsewhere. They searched deeper, finding a narrow passage behind a crumbling effigy. It led to a smaller chamber, its walls damp and moss-covered. There, tucked in a crevice, was a small bundle wrapped in oilcloth. Poirot unwrapped it, revealing a single sheet of paper. A handwritten note in Emily's script. Voss and Blackwood plot to sell relics. Lydia knows, threatens to tell. Crypt meeting at midnight. Good Lord, Poirot! Hastings exclaimed. Emily stumbled on a conspiracy. Relics, funds, affairs. No wonder she was killed. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Indeed, mon ami, she wove a dangerous web, confronting each with their sins. But who struck the fatal blow? They returned to the vestry, where the chalk outline of Emily's body— Mademoiselle, Poirot said, his tone gentle but probing. Emily's diary speaks of your threat to expose a secret, and this note— he produced the crypt paper. You knew of the relic scheme. Did you confront her? Lydia's eyes widened, her handkerchief twisting. I overheard Voss and Blackwood in the vestry, yes. They were planning to sell sacred relics to a collector. Blasphemy. Emily caught me listening, said she'd tell the bishop unless I kept quiet. I was angry, but I didn't kill her. And your affair with Monsieur Hale? Poirot pressed. Emily threatened to expose that too? Lydia's face flushed. Yes, but she was supportive at first, until she realized it gave her leverage. I was in the loft when she died, I swear. As they left, Hastings whispered, Her story's shaky, Poirot. No alibi, and that lipstick smudge on the hymn sheet. Hers, I'd wager. Perhaps, Hastings, Poirot murmured. But the lipstick is too convenient, like the glove. Let us see Voss. They found Sir Reginald Voss in his study across the street, his portly frame hunched over a ledger, his gold pocket watch ticking loudly. His joviality was gone, replaced by a scowl. Mr. Poirot, this is harassment. Those ledgers you found, fakes, planted to ruin me. Poirot's smile was disarming. Monsieur, Emily's note speaks of relics sold for profit. And your cufflink, found near the vestry. Yours, oui? Voss's face reddened. I told you, I lost it weeks ago. And my alibi, Grayson's telegram, proves I was here. Poirot examined the telegram again, noting a faint smudge of ink. This telegram, freshly printed perhaps? We shall verify with your solicitor. As they left, Poirot paused by the vestry door, retrieving the broken rosary bead. This bead, Hastings, found in Voss's pocket, not the vestry. A mistake by the killer, planting it to frame him. Back in the nave,
They confronted Marcus Hale, who was polishing the organ pipes, his bandage fresh from the previous night's attack. "Monsieur Hale," Poirot said, "you
watching us, striking from the shadows." "Oui, mon ami," Poirot said, his voice calm but resolute. "The crypt's secret has stirred the hornet's nest. Emily knew of embezzlement, relics, and affairs. The killer acted to protect one or all." As they stepped into the rain-soaked courtyard, a figure darted through the graveyard, a cloak billowing in the storm. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "After them, Hastings. The truth flees, but we shall pursue." The chase led to the mausoleum, where the figure stumbled, revealing Lydia Hawthorne, her face pale with terror. "I didn't kill her," she cried. "I only hid the key to the vestry. I was protecting Marcus." Poirot's voice was stern. "Mademoiselle, you aided the killer, knowingly or not. The key, where is it?" Lydia sobbed, pointing to a loose stone. "There. I hid it after Emily died. I thought it would protect us." Poirot retrieved the key, its surface scratched, matching the vestry floor. "A duplicate, Hastings. The locked room is no longer a mystery." As they escorted Lydia to Jap, a gunshot echoed in the distance, followed by a cry. "The graveyard!" Hastings shouted, racing into the storm. They found no one, only a pool of blood on the path, washed away by the rain. "The killer strikes again," Poirot murmured. "But who is their target now?" Back at their lodgings, a fifth note awaited. "The organist knows too much." Poirot's moustache twitched. "The game grows deadly, Hastings. Tomorrow we unravel the final threads, but tonight we guard against the shadow that hunts us." The cathedral bells tolled midnight, their peal swallowed by the storm, as the mystery tightened its grip, and the killer's identity remained just beyond reach. Chapter 7. Pursuit in the Mist. The storm had transformed the graveyard of St. Mary's Cathedral into a spectral maze, where fog and rain wove a shroud that cloaked the tombstones in ghostly ambiguity. Hercule Poirot and Captain Arthur Hastings.
Mausoleum, a looming structure of moss-covered stone, its iron gate ajar. The figure they pursued had stumbled here, a fleeting shadow swallowed by the mist. Poirot paused, his torch sweeping the entrance, revealing fresh mud smeared on the threshold. "Regardez, Hastings," he said, pointing to the tracks. "Our quarry was here, but they are clever or desperate." Inside the mausoleum was a crypt of silence, its air cold and heavy with the weight of centuries. Marble tombs lined the walls, their inscriptions faded, and a single candle flickered on a ledge, its wax matching the soft blend found in the vestry. Poirot's eyes narrowed. "The same wax, Hastings. The killer returns to familiar tools." They searched the chamber, finding a discarded cloak, black wool, fine and expensive, like the thread found in the choir loft. Hastings lifted it, noting a faint lavender scent. "Lydia's?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "Or another misdirection?" Poirot's fingers brushed the fabric, his expression unreadable. "Possibly, mon ami. But the lavender, it is too persistent, too deliberate. A signature, perhaps. Or a trap." A faint groan drew their attention to the far corner, where a figure lay slumped against a tomb. It was Lydia Hawthorne, her choir robe soaked with rain and blood, a shallow wound grazing her arm. Her sharp features were pale, her auburn hair plastered to her face as she clutched the injury. "Lydia!" Hastings exclaimed, kneeling beside her. "What happened? Who shot at you?" Her voice trembled,
her eyes wide with terror. "I didn't kill Emily. I only hid the key to protect Marcus. Someone followed me, shot at me in the fog. I tripped, hid here. I swear I'm no murderer." Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. "Mademoiselle, you admit to hiding the duplicate key, yet you claim innocence. The glove in Reverend Blackwood's desk, yours, was it not? Planted to frame him?" Lydia sobbed, her hands shaking. "Yes, I planted it. I thought it would shift suspicion from Marcus. He's innocent, Mr. Poirot. Someone's framing us both."
Story. Do you believe her? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. She speaks truth, but not all of it. The key, the glove, these are threads in a larger web. Let us revisit the clues. Back in the vestry, Poirot re-examined the rosary beads, their ebony surface marred by the broken bead. "This bead, Hastings, found in Voss's pocket, not the vestry. A mistake or a deliberate plant to frame him. And the scratches on the floor, too light for Voss's heavy cane. A lighter touch, perhaps a woman's." Hastings frowned, his mind racing. Lydia's wound. She could have staged it to throw us off, but her fear seemed real. And that cloak, black wool, like the thread in the choir loft. Could it be hers? "Possibly," Poirot murmured, his fingers tracing the scratches. "But the lavender scent, it is not Lydia's perfume. I tested her wrist earlier, no such fragrance. A man's cologne, perhaps, or a deliberate misdirection." They sought out Marcus Hale in the organ loft, where he was repairing a pipe, his bandage fresh but his hands steady. "Monsieur Hale," Poirot began, his voice sharp, "you claim you were attacked to silence you, yet the powder on the organ bench, arsenic perhaps, not talcum?" Hale's face paled, his hands clenching. "I told you, it's for the bellows. I loved Emily. I'd never harm her. And that attack last night, someone wanted me out of the way." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And your cufflink, initialed M.H., found near the organ, lost months ago, you say?" "Yes," Hale insisted. "Someone's framing me, like they framed Voss with that cufflink." Poirot produced the bullet casing, holding it to the light. "This casing, Monsieur Hale, fired from a revolver, like the one Thomas Thorne carried. Did you see him in the graveyard?" Hale shook his head. "I was here, fixing the pipes. I heard the shot, but I didn't see anyone." As they left, Hastings whispered, "Poirot, the clues are piling up. Cufflinks, gloves, beads, wax, lavender, now a bullet. It's like a jigsaw with half the pieces missing." "Patience, Hastings," Poirot said. "Emily overheard us. She was going to the bishop." "And the glove in your desk?" Poirot pressed. "Planted by Lydia, you say?" "Yes," Blackwood cried. "I'm no killer, Mr. Poirot. I was at Vespers, surrounded by witnesses." Poirot nodded, his eyes gleaming. "Your alibi is strong, monsieur, but the wax trace, the scratches, they point to a killer with access and cunning." As they stepped into the nave, a new clue emerged. A witness, an elderly verger, who claimed to have seen Lydia descending the choir loft stairs moments after the murder. "She looked frantic," he said, clutching her robe like she was hiding something. Hastings seized on it. "That's damning, Poirot. Lydia's motive, her affair, her jealousy fits perfectly." "Perhaps, Hastings," Poirot murmured, "but her wound tonight suggests fear, not guilt, and the lavender, it is not hers. We must look deeper." They revisited the crypt, where the hidden note had been found. Poirot's torch swept the alcove, revealing a faint scratch on the stone, a match for the vestry floor. "The same tool," he said. "A cane, a knife, or perhaps a key." Back in the vestry, Poirot examined the chalice, its poisoned rim gleaming faintly. "This poison, intended for us or another? The killer grows reckless." As they left the cathedral, the storm subsided, leaving a heavy mist that clung to the graveyard. A shadow moved among the tombstones, too fleeting to pursue. Hastings gripped his revolver, his voice tense.
They're still out there, Poirot, watching us.
Oui, mon ami, Poirot said, his eyes fixed on the cathedral's silhouette. The killer weaves a desperate game. The cufflink, the glove, the bead, the wax, the lavender, the bullet, all threads in a tapestry of deceit. Emily's knowledge was her doom, and someone seeks to bury it forever. At their lodgings, a sixth note awaited, scrawled in a hurried hand. The vicar's secret is the key. Poirot's moustache twitched. The web tightens, Hastings. Tomorrow we confront the heart of this mystery, but tonight we guard against the shadow that strikes in the mist. The cathedral pain and defiance as Poirot approached, his patent leather shoes clicking softly on the tiled floor. "Monsieur Hale," Poirot began, his voice a velvet blade, "you claim an assailant struck you to silence your knowledge. Yet the little grey cells wonder, could this wound be a ruse to divert suspicion?" His green eyes, sharp beneath his pince-nez, studied Hale's reaction, noting the slight tremble of his hands. Hale's voice was hoarse but firm. "I swear, Mr. Poirot, someone hit me from behind. I didn't see who, just a shadow in the loft. I loved Emily, despite everything. I'd never harm her, nor stage an attack to fool you." Poirot's mustache twitched, his fingers steepled. "And the powder on the organ bench, arsenic, perhaps, not talcum as you claimed? A poison to match the chalice we found in the vestry?" Hale's eyes widened, his hands clenching the cot's edge. "No, it's talcum for the bellows. Check the organ chamber yourself. I've been framed, like Voss with that cufflink. Someone's playing a game with us all." Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. "And your cufflink, initialed M.H., found near the organ, lost months ago, you say?" "Yes," Hale insisted, his voice rising. "I haven't worn those in ages. Whoever attacked me must have planted it." Hastings, standing by the door, whispered, "He's desperate, Poirot. But that wound, it looks real enough. Could he be telling the truth?" "Perhaps, Hastings," Poirot murmured, his gaze lingering on Hale's bandage. "But the truth is a mosaic, and we lack several pieces. Let us seek another." They left the infirmary and returned to the cathedral, where the nave was bathed in the soft glow of morning light filtering through stained glass. The air was heavy with the scent of incense and wax, the lavender trace fainter but ever present. Poirot paused by the vestry door, re-examining the scratches on the floor. "These marks, too light for Voss's heavy cane." "Long shadow, its weight seeming to press on his shoulders." "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," he said, his voice low and strained. "I've prayed for Emily's soul, but this darkness consumes us all." Poirot's tone was gentle but unrelenting. "Monsieur, the locket found in your garden suggests a deeper connection to Emily. A photograph of you and a child. Who is it?" Blackwood's face crumpled, his eyes filling with tears. "Emily. She was my daughter, from a youthful indiscretion before I took my vows. I kept it secret to protect her and the church. She discovered the truth a month ago, demanded recognition. I couldn't let it ruin my ministry. She threatened to tell the bishop." Hastings gasped. "Good Lord, Poirot, that's motive enough for murder. But his alibi, vespers with the congregation, seems airtight." "Indeed, Hastings," Poirot said, his fingers brushing the locket. "Yet the glove in your desk, Reverend, and now this locket. Too many clues point to you. A frame? Or carelessness?" Blackwood's voice broke. "I swear I didn't kill her. I was at Vespers, surrounded by witnesses. Someone planted those things to destroy me." Poirot nodded, his eyes narrowing. "Your alibi is strong, monsieur, but the web tightens. Tell me, did Emily speak of the relic scheme with Voss?" Blackwood hesitated, his hands clenching. "She suspected Voss and I were selling sacred relics to cover debts, mine for my sister's care, his for greed. She confronted us both, said she'd expose us." As they left the rectory, Poirot murmured, "A daughter's betrayal, a father's shame. Yet the scratches, the wax, they do not align with Blackwood's presence." They sought Sir Reginald Voss in his study across the street, where he was poring over ledgers, his gold pocket watch ticking loudly. His joviality was gone, replaced by a scowl. "Mr. Poirot, this is harassment. Those forged ledgers, that cufflink, I'm being framed." Poirot's smile was disarming. "Monsieur, Emily's note speaks of relics, so scent, stronger here. Not a perfume, but a cologne, I think." Hastings paced, his mind racing. "Poirot, it's a labyrinth. Blackwood's secret daughter, Voss's forged alibi, Lydia's hidden key, Hale's attack. How do they connect? And that note about the organist. Hale's in danger, or he's the danger?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The little grey cells see a pattern, Hastings. Emily knew of embezzlement, relics, affairs, and a hidden child. The killer struck to protect one, or all. The lavender, it may belong to a man, not a woman." They revisited the organ loft, where the air was thick with the scent of aged wood and talcum. Poirot examined the bench, finding a faint scratch matching the vestry floor. A tool, Hastings. A key, perhaps, used to lock the vestry after the deed. As they descended, a scream echoed from the nave, a woman's voice, sharp with panic. They raced down, finding Lydia Hawthorne clutching her arm, blood seeping through her sleeve. "Someone tried to kill me," she cried. "A figure in the shadows shot at me as I left the choir loft." Japp arrived, his scowl deepening. "Another attack? This case is a blasted circus. Lydia, who was it?" "I didn't see," she sobbed. "Just a cloak, a shadow, then the shot." Poirot knelt, finding another bullet casing, identical to the one from the graveyard. "The same weapon, Hastings. The killer grows reckless, targeting those who know too much." As they escorted Lydia to the infirmary, Poirot paused, his gaze fixed on the stained glass windows. The lavender, the wax, the scratches, the beads, the glove, the cufflinks, the bullets, all point to a killer with access and cunning. But there is another layer, a second hand, perhaps, aiding the crime. Back at their lodgings, a seventh note awaited, scrawled in a trembling hand. "The benefactor's cane holds the truth." Poirot's mustache twitched. "The game accelerates, Hastings. Tomorrow, we confront the heart of this web, but tonight, we guard against the shadow that strikes twice." The cathedral bells tolled 2 o'clock, their peal echoing through the fog, as the mystery deepened, and the killer's identity remained a shadow in the mist.
Arthur Hastings stood at his side, notebook in hand, his face etched with anticipation as the cathedral bells tolled 3 o'clock, their mournful peal echoing through the fog. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice resonant yet precise, "we gather in the shadow of a crime most foul. Emily Thorne, a voice of celestial purity, was silenced by a hand driven by fear, greed, or shame. The little grey cells have worked tirelessly, weaving the threads of this mystery. Scratches, wax, lavender, beads, gloves, cufflinks, bullets, into a pattern that reveals the truth." His mustache twitched, a sign of the deductions coalescing in his mind. Reverend Blackwood, his gaunt face pale in his clerical robes, spoke first, his voice trembling. "Mr. Poirot, this tragedy is a wound to our flock.
Emily was my daughter, a secret I kept to protect her and the church. I beg you, find her killer and bring peace to this house." Poirot's gaze was unyielding. "Monsieur, your confession of paternity is a thread most poignant. Emily discovered your secret and demanded recognition. Did she also know of your debts, covered by selling sacred relics with Monsieur Voss?" Blackwood's hands shook, his eyes fixed on the crucifix above. "She suspected, yes. I borrowed from the restoration fund for my sister's care. Not gambling, as some whisper. Voss proposed selling relics to cover it. She overheard us in the vestry. She was going to the bishop." Lydia Hawthorne, her auburn hair disheveled, interrupted, her voice sharp with defiance. "Emily was no saint. She knew about my affair with Marcus and threatened to expose us. And that necklace, she stole it, then accused me. I hid the vestry key to protect Marcus, but I didn't kill her." Poirot turned to her, his smile enigmatic. "Mademoiselle, your affair and your planted glove in Blackwood's desk suggest a desperate bid to shift blame. The lipstick smudge on the hymn sheet, yours, perhaps?"
"The crypt. Fakes. Planted to ruin me," Hastings whispered to Poirot. "They're all accusing each other, Poirot. But the rosary beads, twisted so tightly. Strength. Desperation. And the lavender, it's not Lydia's, you said. Could it be Voss's cologne?" "Patience, Hastings," Poirot murmured, pacing the hall, his shoes clicking on the stone. "The little grey cells see through the chaos. Emily overheard a plot, not one, but many. Embezzlement by Voss and Blackwood, selling relics to cover debts, an affair between Lydia and Hale, threatening scandal, a hidden daughter, a faked death by Thomas Thorne. She confronted each, weaving a web that ensnared her." He paused by the vestry door, gesturing to the chalk outline. "The rosary beads, her own, used to strangle her, a symbol of faith, turned to murder. The scratches suggest a struggle. The wax trace from a candle used to seal documents, relic contracts perhaps. The lavender scent, not a perfume, but a cologne, I now believe." Hastings produced the bullet casing from the graveyard. "And this, Poirot, from the same gun that shot at Lydia. Thomas's revolver? Or another's?" Poirot nodded, his gaze sweeping the group. "The killer needed access, strength, and opportunity. The locked vestry opened with a duplicate key, hidden by Lydia, but made by another. The organist, Monsieur Hale, repairs locks for the cathedral." Hale's eyes widened, his voice rising. "You can't think I loved Emily. I was fixing the bellows, not killing her. That cufflink, M.H., was lost months ago." Poirot raised a hand, silencing him. "Yet the powder on the organ bench, not talcum, but arsenic, confirmed by analysis. A poison matching the chalice in the sacristy, intended to silence us." Lydia gasped. "Arsenic? Marcus, you said it was talcum." Hale shook his head, his face ashen. "I swear it's for the bellows. Someone tampered with it." Blackwood interjected, his voice breaking. "Mr. Poirot, the glove in my desk, the locket in my garden. Someone's framing me. I was at Vespers, surrounded by witnesses." "Know who did? I saw them in the crypt after Emily died."
Poirot's voice was sharp. "Speak, monsieur. Who?" Thomas hesitated, his eyes darting to Voss.
"It was Voss. I saw him leaving the vestry, cane in hand, minutes after her scream. He was muttering about silencing her for good."
Voss lunged, his face contorted with rage, but Japp restrained him. "Lies. I was in my study. You're a fraud, Thorne." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Monsieur Voss, your cane
Tipped with silver, oui? The scratches match its point, and the wax trace from a candle you used to seal relic contracts, scented with your lavender cologne. Voss's voice rose, trembling. No, I admit the relics, the funds, but murder? Never. The cufflink was planted, the ledgers forged. Blackwood interjected, his voice desperate. It's true, Mr. Poirot. Voss acted alone in the murder. I helped with the relics, but I didn't know he'd kill her. Lydia sobbed. And I hid the key, but only to protect Marcus. I thought he was innocent. Hale shouted, I am innocent. The arsenic, the cufflink, someone's framing me. Poirot raised a hand, his voice calm but commanding. Silence. The little grey cells have seen the truth. Voss, your cane made the scratches. Your cologne left the scent. Your strength twisted the beads. You killed Emily to silence her blackmail, planting the cufflink to frame Hale, the glove to frame Blackwood. Voss struggled against Japp's grip, his face ashen. You have no proof, detective. Poirot's smile was serene. Au contraire. The wax on your cane, the lavender in your study, the scratches on the floor, all betray you. But there is more. An accomplice, perhaps, who aided your escape? A gasp from Lydia drew all eyes. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. I only hid the key, I swear. I didn't know he'd kill her. Poirot's eyes softened. Mademoiselle, your fear betrays your
breath for the final revelation. Hercule Poirot stood at the centre, his small frame commanding the space with an air of serene authority. His green eyes, gleaming beneath his pince-nez, surveyed the assembled suspects. Sir Reginald Voss, handcuffed and defiant, Lydia Hawthorne, pale and trembling, Reverend Elias Blackwood, his gaunt face etched with shame, and Marcus Hale, his bandaged temple a stark reminder of the violence that had shadowed their investigation. Captain Arthur Hastings stood by Poirot's side, his notebook clutched tightly, his expression a mix of awe and anticipation as the cathedral bells tolled 5 o'clock, their resonant peal heralding the denouement. Mesdames et messieurs, Poirot began, his voice a measured cadence that filled the hall. The tapestry of this crime is woven with threads of greed, betrayal, and hidden truths. Emily Thorne, a voice of celestial purity, was silenced because she knew too much, not one secret, but many, intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree. The little grey cells have unraveled this web, and now the truth stands revealed. His moustache twitched, a sign of the deductions crystallized in his mind. Sir Reginald Voss, his florid face contorted with rage, strained against Japp's grip. You have nothing, Poirot. No proof, only wild accusations. I'm a benefactor, not a murderer. Poirot's smile was serene, his eyes unyielding. Au contraire, Monsieur Voss. The evidence is as clear as the dawn. Let us reconstruct, with order and method. He paced the hall, his patent leather shoes clicking on the stone, his hands clasped behind his back. Emily Thorne overheard a plot in the vestry, a conspiracy between you, Monsieur Voss, and Reverend Blackwood to sell sacred relics to cover debts. She also discovered Mademoiselle Hawthorne's affair with Monsieur Hale, a scandal that threatened their standing. And, most poignant, she learned of her own parentage, Reverend Blackwood's hidden daughter. A secret twisted tightly required strength. The scratches on the vestry floor, made by a silver-tipped cane, not yours, Monsieur Voss, for yours is too heavy. The wax trace, from a candle used to seal relic contracts, scented with lavender cologne. And the cufflinks, one RV, one MH, planted to mislead. Voss sneered, his watch glinting as he struggled. "You're grasping at straws, detective. My cane, my cologne, circumstantial at best." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Non, monsieur. The scratches match the silver tip of a cane found in your study, hidden behind a curtain. The wax analyzed matches candles from your desk, scented with your lavender cologne, a rare blend, imported from Paris. And the broken bead, found in your pocket, not the vestry. A mistake, monsieur, in your haste to frame Hale." Voss's face paled, his voice rising. "Lies! I admit the relics, the funds. I took money to cover losses, but murder? Never." Blackwood interjected, his voice desperate. "He's right, Mr. Poirot. Voss acted alone in the murder. I helped with the relics, but I didn't know he'd kill Emily." Lydia sobbed, her hands twisting her handkerchief. "I only hid the key. I thought it was to protect Marcus, but Voss pressured me. He said he'd expose our affair." Poirot's smile was serene, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Indeed, mademoiselle. You were a pawn in a larger game. Monsieur Voss, you strangled Emily with her own rosary beads when she demanded hush money for your relic scheme. You used the duplicate key, made by Hale for organ repairs, to lock the vestry, planting the RV cufflink to frame yourself, knowing it would seem too obvious, and the MH cufflink to implicate Hale. The glove in Blackwood's desk, supplied by Lydia under your coercion, pointed to the Reverend." Hastings gasped, his notebook nearly slipping. "Good Lord, Poirot! A double bluff, framing himself to seem innocent." "Oui, Hastings," Poirot said. "Voss is the hand that struck." Blackwood fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Forgive me, Emily. I failed you as a father." Hale, his face ashen, whispered, "I thought it was me they'd blame. Thank you, Mr. Poirot." Japp tightened the handcuffs on Voss, his scowl softening to grim satisfaction. "You've done it again, Poirot. A tangled mess. But you've unraveled it." Poirot's smile was modest, his fingers brushing his mustache. "The little grey cells, Inspector. See what others overlook. The order and method. They prevail." As Japp led Voss and Lydia away, Hastings marveled. "Brilliant, Poirot. The cane, the cologne, the double bluff. It's like a chess game. And you're the grandmaster." "No, Hastings," Poirot said, his voice soft but resolute. "It is not a game, but a tragedy. Emily Thorne sought truth, and it cost her life. Yet justice is served, and her soul may rest." They stepped into the nave, where the morning light bathed the altar in a golden glow. The lavender scent had faded, replaced by the clean aroma of incense, as if the cathedral itself exhaled in relief. Poirot paused by the vestry, his gaze lingering on the chalk outline, now erased. "The shadows of the past are dispelled, Hastings. The cathedral is cleansed." Outside, the fog had vanished, the spires standing tall against a clear sky. The congregation gathered for morning service, their voices rising in a hymn that echoed Emily's lost soprano. Poirot and Hastings walked into the sunlight, the weight of the mystery lifting with each step. At their lodgings, no new note awaited, a silence that spoke of resolution. Poirot sat by the window, his eyes distant. The human heart, Hastings, it weaves such complex webs. Greed, love, shame. They drive us to darkness, yet the truth brings light. Hastings nodded, his voice warm. You brought that light, Poirot.